Welcome to Off Panel, Sketch.com's weekly podcast. This week's guest is the cartoonist of Self-Obsessed, the artist of Little Depressed Boy, and the writer and star of a web series adaptation of his own graphic novel, Self-Obsessed. It's Sina Grace. Thanks for coming on the show, Sina.
Woo! Audience applause. So glad to be here.
So is that your official title, writer and star?
I don't know. I think it's the title should just be goofball and accident maker. But yeah. And I think I've learned living in Los Angeles, there's like 9 other hyphenates I could attach. But, the thing that matters to me was that I made it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I happened to be in it because it's about me. But
I guess it wouldn't be unheard of if somebody else started like a web series about your life, but it would be a little strange in this situation.
Yeah, just because it's so present tense. It's not Diary of a Teenage Girl where you're talking about something that took place decades ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you've outgrown, the age of your protagonist or the age range, rather.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so I told you what I was going to do beforehand. Now I'm completely going against that. But that's one of the things I think is really interesting is looking at the graphic novel, like the Self-Obsessed book that you put together and everything like that. And a lot of that stuff was taken from, back in the days of for you, where, you were first getting started and you were doing your first comics and doing things like that. And I was curious as to what, you're doing this web series. It's a 5-part web series. It's going to be on YouTube. I'll make sure to link a trailer in here and everything like that. And it's going to be running. It starts March 22nd or March 23rd?
March 22nd.
March 22nd. What does it look? Is it just looking at your kind of what your life is like now? Is it dramatized? Is it based off your real life? What's the story, Sina?
Yeah, it's the nice thing about the Self-Obsessed web series is that it had to be a much more condensed narrative for viewers, and there's a lot less trust because I don't know who's going to be watching it.
Right.
With a comic book, you assume A, the person knows the language of a graphic novel, and B, that they get certain visual cues and references, and they understand the pacing of what a page turn does to their experience. I don't know who's watching this thing, so I kind of had to take some kind of bullet points about, my life to date, and more specifically, the quote unquote bad year that instigated the Self-Obsessed graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of had to I had to dial certain things up to 10 and bring certain things down, to 0.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just super lovely to kind of look at my approach to storytelling, and even looking at my approach to storytelling about myself,
mm-hmm.
And how to translate that into something far bigger and scarier than 100 pages in a book.
Mm-hmm. So I have to admit, when I first watched the trailer, I was kind of getting a. Did you watch Master of None?
Yeah. Yeah,
that was kind of like the vibe I was getting from it. Not that that's necessarily specifically what you're going for, but it was just I don't know. It kind of seemed like, I don't know. It's very much like you're cartooning. It's like a slice of life, and it wasn't like you're not pulling punches and stuff like that. But obviously, it's one thing to come up with comics about your life. But I mean, was it strange transitioning from being a comic storyteller to being I don't even know. I mean, your role as a hyphenate, I guess you and Daniel kind of teamed up to make the whole thing. So, I mean, what is it like approaching it in a different medium, I guess?
Yeah. The funny thing about Master of None is I totally loved it. And what was so great is that I know, it didn't influence anything I was doing, because obviously that thing came out after I'd wrapped shooting. So,
mm-hmm.
It's not like I had the scripts and was like, oh, this thing's going to be hot in 8 months.
We need to emulate this Aziz Ansari thing.
I mean, hell, that is a good marketing rule, but,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, it was just really validating to see that come out and think, okay, I'm onto something. It's okay to kind of lean into your eccentricities and to, make certain choices that create uncomfortable conversations if that's your prerogative, and that was how I felt. But I lost my train of thought, and I'm going to go to the Daniel part. Yeah, and that was the big thing about it was it's just so much bigger. I had to, when I made Self-Obsessed, that was just 100% me. Aside from a couple of friends like the lovely Tim Daniel and the lovely Sean Steven Struble and stuff. Doing design things for me here and there. That book is just me alone, and I had to rely on something like 40 people to make this web series. And you just can't be precious, which is again hilarious because it's my life, and I financed the thing in that, like, it was all my favors and hookups, and whenever money had to be put on the table, like, I just went and found it or put it on a credit card. So it was weird because there was this sense of it's my party and I'll cry if I want to, but then I couldn't. There's
right.
You can't have you can't have an ego. You have to just get the work done, and it was amazing. It was really stressful, but it's really cool to have done it and to say I did it. I think the story is pretty universal, and that was also something that became apparent when I was done and I brought it to the Image Comics offices to show them, because I was like, hey, like, I didn't quit comics. I'm just working on this thing because I think it'll help the comics. Different people got a lot out of it. The story of a person who gets canceled and loses their creative mojo and, flails violently to find it. That's not just for comic artists, and the word canceled, someone could be fired. It's the same thing. So I think a lot of people are going to enjoy the web series regardless of if they do or don't relate to a gay male in Los Angeles in his 20s who draws comic books all day.
Well, I mean, and like you were saying, it's like, getting fired from your job it's not the exact same thing, but there is a universality to it in the sense that, like, anybody can go through a similar experience, and while they're not you, they could see themselves in your shoes. And, like, I mean, I totally understand, because it's like, your day-to-day work life, no matter what you do, can have, like, disappointment in varying degrees. And I don't know, one of the things I thought was really interesting is, like, you were talking about how you could see, like, maybe this, like, leading into further things for your comics, to a certain degree. I was curious, like, what drove the decision to do this web series? Like, were you trying to bring in, potential new fans to your comics by introducing it to a new medium, or was it something you just kind of thought would be fun to do with friends?
Basically I think the real truth, because, now I'm getting this question, and I had started working on it a year ago. That's how secret this thing was. But basically, the true is a why. To quote my favorite movie, Cloud Atlas, where just quoting some canceled NBC show or something, Suburgatory. I don't know. Anyway, that's a weird reference that I'll have to, like, send you a footnote about later. But
are you talking about Cloud Atlas, or are you talking about Suburgatory? Because I have seen and read Cloud Atlas, and I don't know if you're joking, but I actually like that movie, which probably makes me a crazy person.
I didn't. Okay, so yeah, here. First, we're going to talk about Cloud Atlas, which is a dense and at times overwritten novel, much like mine. And it was translated to, I actually think to some success.
I think so too.
Yeah. Same with my web series. Oh my God. But, like, no, there's a joke in Suburgatory. I think, what is her name? Dahlia. She's just this dead voiced, kind of like, she reminds me of a Valley girl, but at one point when she tries to speak the truth, she goes, like, to quote my favorite movie, Cloud Atlas, the true. Like that. So that was a really dumb reference, and you can tell I must be tired as well.
I love the multi-layered reference, though, because it's like you're referencing somebody referencing something else, and I'm like, I am into all of those layers. So,
which is that's very Cloud Atlas in and of itself.
It is.
But I'm not here. I'm not David Mitchell. So let's sell my product.
Okay.
No. So what had happened was a while ago. This writer director in the Bay Area was talking to me about potentially maybe like taking my 2012 graphic novel, Not My Bag, and doing a Lena Dunham kind of thing where, like Self-Obsessed, it's me in front of the camera and I wrote it and yada yada. And it didn't come together because of a million reasons, but one being that it's very expensive to shoot 90 minutes on any kind of budget. And then on top of that, you have to add the visual effects that are in that book, practical or otherwise. It's expensive. So there wasn't any traction, and that's fine. But after like my grandma died and, I broke up with my boyfriend and I just sort of like ran away to the Bay Area to hide.
Mm-hmm.
I was figuring things out and kind of, I had to wrap up Penny Dora and Little Depressed Boy. And I was trying to figure out what's next. And I thought, okay, well, you've kind of always wanted to know like what it would be like to be in front of the camera after that Not My Bag talk. So why not just do it? And why not find a version of it that would be affordable? And at the same time, I went to Eric Stevenson at Image and I was just saying, hey, like, would it be cool if this is the direction I went in for my next project? And I was saying I'd build out Self-Obsessed and it would be this thing. And he was like, yeah, yeah, man, everyone's a surfer in my stories. Everyone takes bong rips halfway through important meetings in my stories.
Every single impersonation I do has a high-pitched voice, whether or not I'm impersonating a woman or myself even, which is bizarre. I don't know why.
So everyone kind of sounds like Cartman with you?
Basically, except for not entirely, just like my weird high-pitched voice. It's awkward. It's very awkward. Anyways, continue.
I'll subtly get you to do it later.
Sounds good.
But yeah, so anyway, I just said, okay, let's try and reapproach this. And it took a long time for the shape to form, so long that I ended up being back in LA, and it made sense to have Daniel direct it because we worked on the Image Comics series Burn the Orphanage together, and I know Daniel just has a much more like pragmatic brain than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And he's directed things. He's directed several really cool projects like music videos and short films and stuff. And so I was like, hey man, like, do you want to do this? You have to understand that like, I'm a diva, I'm the boss because of what it is. Like, it's not going to be Burn the Orphanage, which already kind of had a skewed power balance because I was drawing it, on top of co-writing. But I was like, this is like, there's no such thing as power. Like it's my thing. Do you want to help direct it?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was fantastic. He whipped me into shape. He managed my expectations. His girlfriend and my dear friend since I was 8 years old, Gabi, she is she produces photo shoots and stuff. So she was able to kind of be a line producer, which in like film projects is super necessary. And yeah, again, it was crazy to find out just how much goes into making a new media project. And I have so much respect to anyone who makes like movies and TV properly because yeah, it's insane. It's insane and it's a lot of work. And when you do it, you totally start to understand and sympathize with some bad movies. You're like, oh, I get it. I get why this turned out bad. Like, some random old dude once told me on the street, no one sets out to make a bad movie. And I got to like kind of see that firsthand making Self-Obsessed.
I hope that person just randomly said that to you. There was like absolutely no context. It just said nobody sets out to make a bad movie.
Oh, it's actually even crazier. I was working on Rodeo Drive. This is before like I was full-time into comics, and I was just eating my lunch on a bench because I brought it in my Fathom lunchbox.
Mm-hmm.
And this old man sat next to me, and you know how elderly folks get. They just like to chat. And so he started talking about how he worked in like old Hollywood, and he worked on like Lucille Ball pictures, and he was talking a lot about the whole it's not like it used to be kind of thing. But yeah, the real main takeaway I got from that entire conversation is no one sets out to make a bad movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
yeah.
was actually reading an interview with do you know the artist Gabriel Hardman?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, he did an interview with, God, who was it? It was those dudes who do the podcast where they look at, oh, how did this get made?
Okay.
Apparently they do a podcast where they look at like really bad movies, and they have like a interview side that just has like this other guy who's involved with their whole project talk to people that were involved with really bad movies, and Gabriel actually was like the guy who he did storyboarding for like Spider-Man 3
Oh, whoa.
and a whole bunch of other projects. Like he did Superman Returns, and he did like the whole scene where like the plane was crashing and everything. So anyway, so he's been doing movies for a long time, and it was interesting to see kind of like the perspective from him as to like, when you're in it, like, you can kind of see that, like, it seems like sometimes when you're in it, you can kind of see that there's like problems and stuff like that, but you're still, you're still working to try to make the best movie you can. And then it comes out and you're like, well, shit. And like that's one of the interesting things about movies. It's like, you look at like, I don't know, like Waterworld, like that's considered like an epic disaster. And I think that movie took like nearly a year to film, basically. And it's interesting, like, like the old man said, it's like, nobody sets out to make a bad movie. And I don't know how I'm going to tie this back into yours, because I'm not trying to imply that it's a bad movie by any means, but it's it is just fascinating because like even tried and true veterans can learn a lot on a project that that they're working on like that. So you probably learned a ton.
Yeah, and I can tie it back, actually. I think I can bow tie this for us.
Let's do it.
And so that was the other impetus for wanting to do it, was I just thought, okay, if Mr. Hollywood's ever going to come up and knock on my door and say that he wants to adapt something, I don't know that I want to, like, I've seen it, I've lived here my whole life, and I've worked for certain people, and some of my friends are working actors and creators and stuff, and I know how bureaucratic and difficult it is to get something made, and you lose your voice and you lose your original vision so fast. And I just thought, okay, no, like if I'm going to do this, I want to do it my way. And, I picked all of the songs, and I reached out to all of the bands and all that stuff. And, I pulled all the clothes, and, I was like sitting over the hair and makeup lady when she was doing Amber's hair. And I wasn't like micromanaging and being weird, but I wanted it to look like a version of my life. Like I wanted it to be a world that people wanted to hang out in, and that people thought was, I don't know. I just wanted it to be itself and not 9 other entities and egos battling about it because they just want to have their fingerprints on it.
Right.
And yeah, so, I didn't set out to make a bad web series. I don't think I made a bad web series. And if it's received well, I'm gonna gladly think that it's because I was very steadfast in wanting to achieve a certain aesthetic and feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's one thing that I think is kind of cool about, you look at comics, and then you also look at a lot of TV shows, and like, especially web series, but a lot of TV shows these days, they have like, there's like the showrunners who have like the singular aesthetic and like singular vision as to like what this should should look like. You look at like somebody like David Simon, or you look at, oh my God, I'm forgetting the guy who did Mad Men.
Matthew Weiner.
Yeah, exactly. And like you look at them, and like it really is a lot of times like a lot of the great things that we look at, whether it's like I said, comics, TV, web series, anything, it is a lot of times it's driven by a singular vision. And so it makes sense, especially given that it was your first foray and it was obviously an extremely personal story, that you would kind of take the lead on everything, and not like you said, like not like you're micromanaging, but that you're trying to, find the best solution for everything that you can help out with.
Yeah. I mean, and hands-on and like learning everything, it was, yeah, because it's like you said, when I'm making comics, and it's gotten to the point now where, aside from like fun and specialty cases, I'm trying to do them all 100% myself, you know, even now with like lettering. And but it's, you know, I have to like learn to problem solve with comic books and storytelling, you know, every page, every day. And it's always just about like, how do we find the solution? So I felt like that attitude would translate well. And then also, you know, being with someone like Daniel, who is also the same way, where it's like, let's not waste time fussing and worrying. Let's just figure out the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of mindset and mentality that's very based in the present helped steer us clear of certain headaches that would have maybe, you know, messed up the storytelling in the editing room or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really cool. I don't know. You'll see. You'll be like, that's mediocre at best. And thank you.
I highly doubt that. But so you never went megalomaniac on the set and being like, I don't know. I'm just trying to imagine like Orson Welles or something during like Citizen Kane.
I didn't have the time.
You were too busy in all of your different roles.
Well, you know, the thing is, like, Daniel was just very smart and was like, this is the call time. Like, this isn't meeting your friends for coffee. Like, this is, you have to be here at 8 a.m. You know, and, you know, I would rehearse with Daniel and stuff like that. I didn't rehearse enough. I thought like, oh, I wrote the lines, I'll be able to memorize them. So that was maybe the one thing that he was really like, he would want me to do differently, if there will be more, is like actually really like memorize the lines beforehand. Cause it was like, you know, right before the take, I'd be like, wait, hold on. Okay. I'm ready. But no, I didn't get to be a diva. In fact, I feel like I got to like take my licks a lot. You know, there is this wonderful guy who joins in on the 3rd episode named John Gabrus. He's a fantastic comedian, and he's blowing up on TV Land's Younger, as well as like 9 other comedy shows. But he plays my ex-boyfriend, and Daniel was like sitting next to him, kind of getting him ready for this scene where he yells at me for coming up at his doorstep looking for like some kind of refuge or you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
And so Daniel's like explaining it to him. He's like, you're mad at Sina because he did this and that and this and that. And you're thinking this. And like, it was like the cruelest depiction of me. And sadly, some of it was based in truth, because Daniel has seen me through about 3 or 4 relationships. You know,
Mm-hmm.
We've been friends since high school. So he was able to bring up some truths. And I'm just watching John like, go, yeah, totally. Oh yeah, I know that girl, you know, because it's straight. And I'm like, guys, I'm right here, and both of them are looking at me like, yeah, and we're both here doing this web series for you. Just take a fucking like, you know, take a hit. Just like go with the bad words about yourself and like let him get angry at you. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I tried my best to have no ego. I think the only time I was like a megalomaniac is if I was like, I need a picture of this right now, which even that is forward thinking, David, because
it's branding.
Now I have production photos.
that is super important. Now you can, you know, share those with people, put them up on social media and get people hyped.
Heck yes.
One thing, I was reading an interview with you from, I think it was last year, and it was involving, you know, the book itself. And you were talking about your time at Skybound, and you were talking about how the only thing that you regretted was that you didn't leave earlier. And not because like you didn't enjoy your time there, but it was because, you know, more or less you work better when you're your own boss. And when you are your own boss. And what is it like that speaks to you about like being, I don't know, kind of like the Ronin creator, like the freelancer who gets to, you know, kind of do your own thing? Because it sounds like that's kind of where you're moving with everything.
I wish I could say, I mean, I think that it just became clear, you know, over time and over so many projects. And I'm thinking about it now, you know, you just have to like follow your passion. And if you have the luxury to do so, and if you have the luxury to experiment with what makes you the best version of yourself as a writer, an artist, a musician, you know, you have to kind of follow it. And some people flourish when they're in group dynamics. And, you know, even like, let's just compare it to musicians. You know, you look at some people and they work way better as like a Fleetwood Mac than they do as a Stevie Nicks. I don't know if that's true, but that's just an easy example. I don't listen to a lot of either of them. Sorry, no offense to you, Fleetwood Mac and Cheesers or whatever. I don't know what the fan name is there, what the internet group
it's always hard to keep up with the accepted like fandom nickname. I mean,
I know, right?
It gets confusing sometimes, but I do agree with that statement one way or another. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, so you know, I think it's just I've always known what I've wanted for myself, and I've always been able to make decisions really fast. And I wish I could tell you, but it's the best answer I have is everything I was drawn to in terms of stories and in terms of other figures in pop culture who struck a chord with me. It was always the narrative of, you know, they went out on their own and they did it their way. And sure, life is still hard, but they're more content. I think Amy Mann, you know, for as subdued as an example as she is, she's a perfect one. You know, her iTunes interview is fantastic with these great little stories about how she tried to do things the record label's way and it wasn't right. And she tried to do things, you know, this or that way and it wasn't right. And until she was like, can I just like be Amy Mann the way like Amy Mann should be? It clicked, you know? And that's how I feel about me. Like, I think it's really fun to spend time working on diversions for projects. And it's fun to scratch certain itches, but unfortunately, like, this is also my career and editors are looking at my output and that's how they're deciding whether or not they want to hire me. And you know, like after 2014, I looked at the stack of books I'd been doing and it's like, what do I look like to someone else? And I just thought I look like a really like frantic and like lackluster comic artist. Like that's it. Like I just look like and I thought, well, like that's not Sina Grace. So Self-Obsessed seemed like, okay, that's Sina Grace. And you know, the same thing with Skybound. Skybound is Skybound, and then if it's not Skybound, it's Robert Kirkman's Skybound, and if it's not Robert Kirkman, you know what I mean? It's a million other people's thing before it's the editor, and that's cool. That was my job. That's what I got paid to do. But you know, as has been made clear, I'm like, I kind of need to have like a little bit of that spotlight, or I kind of need to, you know, be a bit of a ham. So I just needed to cut out and do my own thing for a minute.
Oh yeah, believe me, I totally understand. I mean, when we first started talking, you know, back years ago, I was with Multiversity Comics, and like this year, I split off and did my own thing. And like sometimes you just have to find the right fit for yourself, and sometimes the right fit is doing your own thing.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's not. You know,
yeah.
Who had a shitty solo career in music? You know, I would say that everyone would agree that like, yeah, Paul McCartney has had some like nice songs since the Beatles, but like when you think Paul McCartney, you're gonna think the Beatles.
I think David Lee Roth would probably be a pretty good example, although some people might not like Van Halen very much either. But I mean, like, actually, really basically any Van Halen lead singers did not have a very good solo career. But I don't know. I was kind of thinking about what you were talking about earlier, too. It's like, it is interesting to think about how different, you know, some musicians and some creators, like artists of all varieties. Like one of my favorite musicians, I love Andrew Bird. And he was with Squirrel Nut Zippers, and nobody.
I didn't make that connection.
Yeah, like not that many people think about that, and because like that was a big group of a lot of really, you know, strange musicians, and like it was an interesting group, but it wasn't exactly what Andrew Bird does. And now he's doing this, and I don't think people really realize that, but it's I think he made like a choice where he wanted to go off and do his own thing, and he makes really fantastic music. And I don't know, for everybody, I think it's just you're trying to find what comfort level and what works for you so you can make the best art you can. And I think it's great that you're doing that, because I think as much as I enjoy, like I really enjoyed Penny Dora, like I thought that was a really great series, and I like Little Depressed Boy and everything else, but I really like your personal stuff more, because it really feels like I don't know, you're getting to uh realize your art in a way, like it just feels so much more personal, and it feels like there's a lot more personal connection to your art, and it really comes through in your work.
I appreciate that. Thank you. No, and I love all those books too, you know. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't agree to work on them for nothing. Like I really, you know, each of them is special, but they, you know, Penny Dora is not in my comfort zone in a lot
Right.
of ways. And I think about the work I'd been doing for Jenny Lewis this past winter,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just all, you know, it was all up my alley. Like it was all stuff I love to draw, you know. And even if there were like things I didn't love to draw, like, oh, I have a truck. Ugh. But, yeah, sorry, I hate drawing cars, and I know there are people out there who are like, oh man, I could draw cars all week.
Did you know that Mike Mignola, the reason why he sent Hellboy to hell is more or less so he could stop drawing cars?
I believe it, but yeah, oh yeah, no, I mean that was like kind of one of my favorite things about even doing the self-obsessed web series is like your narrative is hinged on just practical issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for example, there's a scene where it took place in a coffee shop. Oh no, that, I mean, we got the cafe, but that was like, that was stressful in and of itself. But there was originally a scene that was supposed to take place at a bar, and a friend had like promised up and down that this like really cool bar on the east side of town, that they were going to let us have it because they hadn't opened, so it was going to be a-okay to like use the space for as long as possible. And it was like, and let me tell you, self-obsessed should be called Occam's razor. Is that the anything that can go wrong will go
Or
wrong?
is that Murphy's Law? No.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah, it's Murphy's Law.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. Self-obsessed is actually called Murphy's Law because everything went wrong. Like we didn't get that space. The guy didn't tell us until like 2 weeks, no, a week before shooting. And like luckily I read the writing on the wall and moved mountains to figure it out. But you know, the scene had to change, and it turned into something that when you see episode 1 is way funnier.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably couldn't have done some of the raunchier jokes had it been like a bunch of dudes at a bar, because basically my character goes looking for some quality time with a gentleman caller to distract himself, and things go wrong. And again, yeah, we couldn't have done that if we were in a more like, you know, public bar setting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, so stuff like that, you know, Mike Mignola not wanting to draw cars, that's totally real, and it's the same with me. And yeah, and the Jenny Lewis stuff, people responded so well to it because I was just thrilled to draw everything. I was so excited by the challenges, and it felt invigorating, you know, even if it was hard work, it was like work I loved doing. And it shows. And Jeff Lemire told me that. That's kind of why I even did Self-Obsessed to begin with, was he was just like, you got to make work that makes you happy because it shows on the paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked his introduction on to the book, because it was great. Where I really liked his point he made, where it was like you put the stuff in that, you know, when you're younger and when you weren't at like peak Sina powers for art and everything like that, and it really added to it, because it gave the story like a life narrative to it. I mean, it gave the book a narrative of your life and showing like your progression and showing how you evolved. And I think that type of stuff, it really fits your art, because I don't know. I mean, it just feels like it does. And I really liked what Jeff had to say in the beginning. I thought it worked really well.
When he said that, I was like, okay, this book isn't the biggest mistake I've made in my life. I don't know. He really, he doesn't know it, but he helped me through some super rough times, just by being himself, just by being that cool dude, Jeff Lemire, who like always seems to have like a really nice and calm demeanor about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just been only me. And anyway, he's dope. Everyone buy his books.
Yeah, no, well, it seems like he kind of likes diary comics too, because I know he really liked Emmytown.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, not saying that Self-Obsessed is, ostensibly completely a diary comic, but it kind of fits into that realm. But at the same time, like, it's I don't know, it was a great fit. But one thing I did want to bring up Jenny, because I was personally very, very sad that I couldn't get a copy of the book that she had on her tour, that you had, you did the 8-page comic for and did a bunch of pinups and stuff like that, because
it's available on jennylewis.com right now.
Is it? I thought it was holding on tour.
You missed my one tweet about it.
Oh my God, I'm a monster. I'm sorry.
It's available on her shop now. They have I think like maybe a couple dozen left. So yeah, there's still a handful left.
I'm gonna have to get on there, because I'm like the rare Alaskan who I was a big Rilo Kiley fan. I really like her solo stuff too, and I grew up watching Troop Beverly Hills, which makes me like the rare trifecta.
Yeah, that's huge. That's the badge right there.
I was gonna ask about the soundtrack though. Like, did you desperately try to get her on the soundtrack, or was she just not like an ideal fit for what you were going for?
I just wouldn't even approach that, because she's through Warner Records.
Oh, and that's a bunch of red tape you don't want to deal with.
I just know how that stuff goes, and even when the musician can clear a lot of the tape for you, it's a lot of unnecessary baggage. Even to clear the lyrics in a Childish Gambino song for Little Depressed Boy, just to put that in a comic, we had to jump through some certain hoops, and it wasn't difficult. And, even as, Donald waved as much as he could wave, but there were still fees. And, it just was like, that would be weird in the sense of like, A, asking her, and then B, going through all that trouble for a song on such a small project when, I don't know, the time, energy, money, it just, I don't know, it didn't feel right. I mean, I just finished a playlist for Paste Magazine, and I ended it on her title track from The Voyager, because the music is really, it's in the artwork, it's in the performances on the web series, she's very much, she's been very much a part of my DNA for the past 15 years almost. And so it's there, but it's not like, and cue the song.
But you did have Nick Diamonds on it, which makes me very happy.
Yeah, and also here you go. You want some juicy details?
Yeah.
Self-Obsessed, the book, it's named after a Rilo Kiley B-side lyric.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a throwaway line called "Somebody Else's Clothes," and she has this line. What is it like? Been on the road for so long, singing self-obsessed songs. There's no winning here at all. Maybe that, I don't know how the lyric ends, but that always stuck with me. Like, that image of her like in the back of a touring bus, just kind of like trying to write a song and like just being so bored and miserable, and like recognizing, oh God, this is just about me, just, I mean, that's the takeaway I got from it, that mood. And that's how I feel about even like myself and my own work. It's like, another self-obsessed strip, but it's more of a celebration in my iteration than in the song itself. But yeah, even the title of the book has some Jenny Lewis DNA in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I want to go back to the beginning for young Sina Grace, because I think, one of the things I thought was really cool about Self-Obsessed was like you had that picture of you from your yearbook that says like what you wanted to be. You wanted to be a comic book illustrator. And I thought that was really interesting that you knew you wanted to be a comic artist from very early on. Like what was it that was the draw for you?
It was so simple. I don't know, like I don't know, I loved drawing Batman as a kid. I loved reading comic books as a kid. It seemed like a dream. Mm-hmm. And I wanted nothing else to do as a kid besides draw, like The Wizard of Oz and Batman, like doing cartwheels with Catwoman. Swear to you, I have a drawing of that. I think it's somewhere on Facebook. If not, I'll have to post it.
That sounds like the best drawing ever.
Yeah, and it's like, by 6-year-old me. So, no, it was just a very pure desire as a kid. And, then as I got older and my drawing skills improved and I started to when kids are like 12, 13, that's when everyone stops doing everything and people start veering towards what they're actually good at. That's when you start taking like this class, like this math class, and that's when you start taking this summer program. Or I never did that, but that was when I started to recognize, like people stopped drawing because people didn't get much better than when we were 5. And here I am, like really, really, looking like a super shitty Greg Capullo, but like you can see it, and then therefore there's something there. And I kept going at it and trying and working. And like that first page of Self-Obsessed, like he tried, he learned, he failed, he like is getting there or whatever. So yeah, it's always been this pure, unrivaled desire to just make comic books.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. Like I have to admit, I grew up and I was that that 12-year-old who had the divergence, who I was like, I could either continue being terrible at drawing or I could pursue some other dream. Of course, I also want to be a baseball player or a basketball player. And here I am doing, well, I work for an advertising agency, which is, I love my life. I wouldn't want to change it. But at the same time, it's like, it's interesting how like, I don't know, like it's like you're talking about that divergent moment. Like, what would have happened if I had continued trying to be a comic artist? Maybe I could be a comic artist right now. I don't even know. But it does seem like that is something that you like. A lot of people, like, I'm not saying that like there's a lot of people out there who are working in comics who just do it as a job or something like that. But you seem very passionate about it. It seems like, like you worked at Top Cow when you were in high school and you worked as like an editorial director at Skybound. It seems like one way or another, no matter what, you've been involved with comics in like kind of your professional life.
Yeah. I mean, I keep saying that. Yeah, it's always been there, and I don't know how to turn it off.
Nor do you want to.
Nor do I want to.
It seems like comics, no matter what, is something you want to be involved with. Is it something that you just kind of can't quit? Is it like a compulsion? Is it like I guess comics really are just your passion, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had to think about it a lot lately because I'm turning 30 in August, and as anyone who's over 30 knows, like it's not a big deal, but it's the end of the world when you're 29, because it makes you realize that you're like, oh, I'm me. This is it. Like this is as good as it gets if I don't move things in certain directions. And so I've had to look at my career a little bit and go, can I make this like work? Can I like what am I going to be doing in 15 years? What am I going to be doing here in 20 years? Like how can you build a life in comic books? And, the way you do that is have stuff that's super successful and, gets royalty statements through and through, and then be smart and invest those royalty statements, and don't blow it on handbags, Sina. But yeah, it's the one thing I used to think about myself, and I forgot about it somewhere in my mid-20s, but I used to say, I'll do whatever it takes for the story. If the story in my head is like a novella, then I'll write a novella. And that was my college thesis, was like an 80-page novella or whatever. If the idea in my head is like lyrics to a song, then it's a song, and that's where it'll be. And I think that's where I'm at now is, okay, if I'm going to tell a story that's a comic book, why is it a comic book? Why isn't it this? Because I don't have the time anymore to keep making mistakes. So I have to like be very smart about what books I put out and what stories I tell and how I tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, so that's where I'm at now. Is it's more like I'm just servicing the story. I don't ever want to stop. I love comic books way too much. I love the people way too much. It's a really fun industry. I know, currently we're finally talking about some of the less fun things in the industry, and therefore, it's a bit of a weird time to
Mm-hmm.
be in comics. But that all being said, I think it's still super awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I think is super cool about you as a person is like you I talk to a lot of people, and it seems like no matter who I mention, like I'm like, oh, I like bring up your name or something like that, and everyone's like, oh, I love that guy. And I
I'm
think
like, really, where are they when I want to kill myself? Like,
well, no, I mean, it really, it does. It's like all the image people have always said nothing but positive things. And like creators I talk to are like, oh yeah, that guy's great. And it just seems like you have, you have a comic family in a lot of ways, but it's, does that kind of thing, um, does that help motivate you or is that not something you feel, I guess?
um, I mean, column A, column B.
Yeah.
I I feel like I owe making good decisions to the people who stood by me.
Hmm.
Sometimes I get in the way of myself, and especially lately, I feel like I've been getting hit more and more with these like really weird waves of like depression's a very specific term. I'll just call it ennui,
Hmm.
because that sounds pretty. But and I'm pretty. No, um, but I just feel like I owe it to people. Like I've done everything in this industry. I just owe it to kind of proceed with my best foot forward and make everyone proud or something. I don't know. But it's cool. It's really cool. And Livio, do you know Livio Romandelli? Did I say that his last name right?
I don't know him. No.
He's a great comic book artist. I think he's most famous for his work on Transformers.
Hmm.
But we were at a convention in Phoenix in December, and we happened to be sitting near each other, and that was great because we had good vibes. And people came by and they did the thing that for me I was accustomed to, which is like have a real conversation and tell me what's going on. And they had very like specific questions about Little Depressed Boy or yada yada. And then they'd go away, and Levio would be like, "Man, that's really cool." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "People come because of like you, like a thing that you did that's like very much like personal, and they're connecting to it." Levio's money comes from like Transformer fans who want like Bumblebee doing some cool shit, or he also does amazing Star Wars illustrations, and it's that's nice, and it's great to have any inherent fan base. We're both super lucky, but I I'm starting to catch on to how super lucky I am that like these people are believing in me, and like what I'm selling them is myself. That's not every creator in comics.
Hmm.
And I feel special, but I also, sometimes you lose sight, and sometimes it doesn't change how like exhausting the work is. But yeah, I don't know. It does start to, it comes up every now and again. I think that's my answer. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Well, I mean, it is cool that people are coming up and talking about things like that, especially considering the fact. I think the way I got to know you actually was that I had to come to your table to apologize because on my YouTube show I got your gender wrong, and and so and so I came up to apologize, and you were super gracious about it, which I appreciate because I was super embarrassed.
Not my first rodeo with that one. That's all.
Really?
Of course, yeah. Come
I
on.
don't know. I mean, I guess Sina is not a super common name, but at the same time, I remember just thinking, I'm like, how did I not at least Google that first? I'm an idiot. I have the internet. It's a vast sea of information. And instead, I was just like, she, her.
All right, I'm gonna give you some credit though, because that was a couple years ago. Phones weren't quite what they were.
This is true.
Maybe you had a flip phone. Maybe your flip phone didn't even have color. Like, maybe your flip phone didn't even have the like, you know, SD chip so you could save more than 10 photos.
That's true.
I'm gonna say that, okay? I'm giving you that.
I would lean into that, but the sad thing is I worked for a telecommunications company in mobile, and so I always had like the latest phone. So my excuse was I was drinking, and it was it was a terrible choice. But at the same time, I'm glad to know I'm not the only person who has fallen down that hole before.
Oh no, no. Oh golly. And please, if you read those old Walking Dead letter columns, everyone's like, "Oh, I always thought you were this, you know, hot Scandinavian chick."
That's so precise.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They've just created a profile for this editor who's responding to their questions about Rick.
I feel like they must have been imagining like one of those like weird like photo bucket images of like skanks on laptops and stuff. Like if you ever want to really see the state of our nation and just our world and culture in general, because you know we can all get in our small circles and think everything's okay. Google, what is it? A woman holding gun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had to, you know, you have to look up reference for things as
Right.
an artist. Just Google that sometime. It's like Google image search. It's like right. TNA sells still.
Especially with guns. They know their marketplace.
Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask about your time with Skybound, because I do like as Skybound and Top Cow, because you know, especially with Skybound, you weren't just editing one book, you were editing the line, right?
Yeah.
And it seems like you touched a lot of different types of comics, and you worked with like Robert, and you worked with like Ryan Otley and Corey. Well, I don't know. I doubt you worked with Corey Walker, but
I did.
Okay, and Corey Walker, and like, you know, Charlie Adler, and like all kinds of people. Like, do you feel like, while that time may have been a time that you had to move on past, do you feel like you learned, you carried a lot with you past that experience, from that experience?
Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. You know, I always think like maybe once every 2 to 3 months of like just like writing Robert an email being like, yo, like still grateful for the opportunity, because everything got put in perspective for me. I learned how every artist works. I learned how to talk to artists. I learned how to manage a schedule. I learned how to work with Image Comics' insanely talented crew of like production people. And, you know, their whole staff is awesome, but, you know, it was like days and nights spent messaging with Jonathan Chan over there. And, you know, you get to see just how hard everyone works and what it takes to make a comic of a certain caliber. And then more to the point, you know, with Robert, it's like you see how hard it is. Like even when you're successful, and even when you have certain assurances as a creator and as an idea guy, the hustle is still there, man. Like Kanye's right. It doesn't matter like how rich or famous you are. Like there's still a climb, which, you know, is nice to know in some ways, but then when you're more in a more like nihilistic down state of mind, it's like sad, because you're like, what's the point?
Yeah, all you see is the climb.
Yeah, you know, well, but it's good because you realize it's only a climb if you want it to be.
Exactly, yeah.
You need to find out what it is you want for yourself, and you need to know that and say that and believe it, and then you'll be okay. You know, and yeah, let's talk about depression some more, because it's been on my mind.
No, I mean, it is cool though that like, you know, with like somebody like Robert, you get to see that like, I don't know. I remember talking to somebody who was trying to be a creator, and like they had talked with Kirkman for a bit, and it was like they were talking about how even just in a short conversation they learned a lot about how important it is to, you know, get out there and meet people and like try to make those connections to like, you know, get your voice out there, because like a lot in comics isn't, I mean, I'm not saying it's like it's about who you know, not what you do, but at the same time it is like it is important to like get out there and like you said, the hustle is a big part of comics.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't tell you how inspiring it was watching him promote the crap out of that Super Dinosaur book. Like he worked so hard because he loved it and believed in it so much, and he was having the best time with Jason Howard, and you know, and again, like when the glass is half full, like that's beautiful. Like it just, he loved something so much that it didn't matter that he's like, I'm Robert Kirkman over here. Like, it's like, no, like I'm going to get, you know, I'm going to get back on the ground and just let everyone know who'll listen that Super Dinosaur is a great book they should read.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really fantastic. And then even getting to see the AMC TV show stuff, the way I said that was so weird. That rolled funny. But again, it's all about perspective and getting to see just how big these things are and how you don't actually, and sometimes you don't even know what you have in your hands and all that stuff. It was just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
For every sense of that word. It was just fantastic. You know, and it was also some of the most challenging work of my life, but it was cool. It was super cool. And yeah, like, I think I'm going to, like, after this, text Robert and be like, hey man, still grateful.
Yeah. Well, it's like a super intensive school, more or less, that you were in for a few years, and that's really cool. But I actually did want to ask you. I read an interview with you from your alma mater, UCSC, and like I thought, like, the advice you gave, like, creative writing majors, it's something that I personally subscribe to, and it was basically that, you know, never forget that you're always a student. And I totally am in support of that. But one of the things I want to ask is, like, do you kind of feel like, you know, no matter how far into your career you get, you're kind of always still learning new ways to approach your cartooning? Because I even from when I first discovered your work, I feel like I've seen, like, real growth, and, like, I really appreciate, like, how versatile. I like I was talking about Penny Dora earlier. Like, I wouldn't have normally expected a book like that from you, but your art worked extremely well with it, and there was so much character and life to it. So do you kind of feel like every day is a new adventure and you're still learning stuff with your art?
It's not an everyday thing, but it is. I've tried to be really cognizant of it. And sometimes it's fueled by, like, well, why didn't that editor call me? You know, and then sometimes it's also just like, ugh, I know I'm better than this. And you know, with technology, it's just changing every day. So I have to kind of keep learning. And you look at some artists, comic artists specifically, who are in their 50s and 60s, and you're kind of like, okay, like, yeah, people need to stop giving you work. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, this is just like nostalgia or something. And I don't want to name names because I'm all like the original Aunt Viv. I'm like, I don't want to name names. But I yeah, you know, whatever, it's there. You can look at a comic book and you can see who's stagnating. And then you can look at Rich Corbin, who, I don't know how the fuck old he is now, but I love his stuff still. It's still amazing. He's still growing. It's fantastic. And I want to be that. I want to never be like a sympathy nostalgia hire. I want to be hired because people are like, oh, he's going to deliver. And I'm trying to get more epic with my deliveries too. I think my Power Rangers cover was a good first step. That was like Sina 110%. So yeah, I definitely still try to be a student. And that's what always bugs me about even these self-obsessed stories, is like, they don't use all of my quote unquote drawing skills, but I have to remember that, like, less is more too. Like, knowing when not to put something on paper is just as much a moment of you using your knowledge and skills as adding like 9 more buildings and 10 more, you know, characters in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a huge thing because, like you said, like, I mean, sometimes, like, blank space can speak volumes, especially in how it works against your art and everything. But I guess I'm curious, like, do you envision kind of like the next steps for your artistic career, your comic career, to be more like a focus on like the slice of life stuff that you've been doing, or what do you see next for Sina Grace?
I mean, I'm open-minded. The one rule I have, and my old boss from Top Cow, Renee, she gave this. I just always have life crises, but again, around the same time of, you know, the breakup and moving around, my grandma dying, I met Renee for lunch, and oh no, it was a phone call. It doesn't matter. She gave me this awesome takeaway, which is like, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no.
That is great life advice.
It is, but you know, I have to always like bring up not everyone's in a position to do that, you know.
Yeah, no, totally.
If you've got two kids, like, fuck yes is just the paycheck, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have kids. I mean, I have my dog and my cat, so like I need to have some additional money to take care of them and pay for their vet bills and shit, but like not the way little human beings cost money.
Right.
And but yeah, it you know, I put myself in a position to not have to need cash as bad as I used to, you know. And I'm able to look at things and say fuck yes, fuck no. So really, one thing I feel, I've been thinking about that, and I have so many like little projects I'm not allowed to talk about quite yet. I'm always open to like cool mainstream stuff, as long as it fits within like my skill set. I don't want to be set up to fail, you know, by like having to write Suicide Squad and me being like, I don't know how to write, you know, 7 sociopaths with a penchant for destruction. Yeah. I guess maybe I do.
Or draw something that's just filled with trucks.
You know what though? Yeah, actually, yeah, I would fail at drawing Suicide Squad because it's all like weapons and guns and destruction, and you know, like Tyler Kirkham's amazing at that stuff. I'm not. So I think you know, artistically, I think I just want to kind of do very fun, specialized projects. This one big graphic novel in my head that I'm like, I don't know, do I do it? Do I not do it? Do I kind of work on it a little bit like I did with Not My Bag, where I just wait till I have like 50 pages and then do something with it? But I've got a few little things coming out between Self-Obsessed, the web series, and, you know, let's say the summer, that'll buy me the time to to figure out how I'm going to end out 2016. But yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm very open-minded and excited. And it's just comforting to know that like there are people who are like, hey, you can do the slice of life stuff. Don't you worry, man. Don't you worry, man. Take a bong rip.
So, you know, I wanted to finish out because you've been, you know, you've been, like I said, you've been working in comics for a while now, and you've had several different roles. You know, you're possibly a hyphenate. I don't know if we want to go down the hyphenate direction, but, and you've seen comics kind of in times both like low and high. Like we had like a low time kind of around when you were first starting out, I think. But then now, I mean, comics are like, we're having a lot of, I don't know. Saying first world problems kind of makes it seem diminishing, but I mean, it's like we're having to face a lot of stuff in comics because there's so much success, I think, at least in part. And I'm curious, how are you feeling about comics today, both as like a person who is in love with the medium and as a creator?
I think it's a cool time. I mean, it has to be a cool time if I'm so overwhelmed that I can't keep up with new books.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, I think during harder times, there were still, you know, a bajillion comics coming out every month, but like it was really easy to say no to a lot of things. Like, all right, I don't need to buy like, I hate talking shit about comics. I'm trying to think of like a really bad comic in like 2003 or something, but you know, yeah, you don't I don't want to do it. But anyway, yeah, like, but now every publisher, because there's money and there's attention and there's energy, you know, every publisher has some really awesome, unique stuff coming out. I remembered visiting IDW a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine handed me this book called Renee, which is this French graphic novel. And I was like, you guys put this out? And she's like, flipped through it, and I was like, this looks like something I'd draw. Like, I need to read this. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful graphic novel. And it's not even current, I just realized. I think they just had a new printing or something. But that came from IDW, like this weird, sad, like existential French book.
Was that like a Top Shelf book? Because I know that I think they bought Top Shelf or something.
Yeah, that must be it. But even so, that's still cool that IDW bought Top Shelf because they think that Top Shelf is of value or something, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think like that's one of the things that I really love about comics today is like, I bring this up a lot on my show, but I really feel like there's definitely like a lot more publishers are making comics for a lot more people. And like, if you're X person, you can probably find something. And if you're Y person, you can probably find something too. And like, it just seems like, I don't know. I was talking to a coworker today, and she was talking about her best friend, and her best friend was talking about how she always perceived comics as like a trash medium, more or less. And like, she was really surprised that there was a comic on the Battle of the Books list for her school, for her kid's school. And so she like read through all the books with her daughter, and it was El Defo.
Oh, I've never read it.
Oh yeah, so it was like,
I'm behind.
well, it is a all ages book, so maybe it's like a little bit outside your typical reading list, but at the same time, like she read it and she thought it was amazing, and she was like, maybe I have to rethink like the way that I look at comics. Like maybe comics aren't just what I thought it was, and I that's one of the things I love about comics today, is that they can be a lot more things for a lot more people, and I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and everyone's becoming more open-minded about how we get people to read the comics, which I think, it's like the music industry. People were really scared. Piracy blew up, and a lot of our brick and mortar hallmarks or whatever took the hit, and that wasn't cool. But I think we're all just kind of like, okay, we can complain about it and die out, or we can move forward and try to better understand the book market and penetrate that more effectively. And then let's explore the digital market and better utilize it to build our audiences. And, social media has really helped, I think, even Instagram, because it's such a visual based app, even that, I think, has helped comic books in a lot of ways, because, it's as easy as looking at a picture and making that decision. So yeah, it's a good time. I'm super into right now. I like, my reading list is ridiculous, and I love that my reading list is also not just Image Comics anymore.
Right.
There was a time when it wasn't even like Fidelity that my quote unquote pull list was Image. It's great, and now it's Dark Horse, it's Marvel, it's DC, it's all of them. It's all the little guys too. No Brow, like I fucking love them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or it's just like picking up random ass people's books that I find on the internet, on Instagram, like Ben Sears. He'll put out a zine, and it's just the most gorgeous little zine.
Yeah, I love Ben Sears. Like, I actually, I don't even remember how I like came across his stuff. I think I was doing like some sort of art feature, and I came across some commission he did at a con, and then I started following him. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to check this out, and I got Gleaming Corridor, and I was like, this is a great comic. And then like The Sweeper, which he came out with this year, was also really good. And I'm like, it is interesting how you can find people that way. I still am kind of blown away. I think it was Rolling Stone, or maybe it was Spin, or somebody did like a top 100 Instagram follows, and they had Chris Samnee on the list. And I was like, wow, that blows my mind. Like, they have a comic artist on like the same list that like Kanye is like number 1 on or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's fantastic. And even, there was one other thing that I was like going to be like, yeah, and even that helps. Oh, Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. I think that's been a great platform too, because it's given a lot of hopefuls the leg up they need to just get their books done.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, I don't know, I might be wrong, but it's okay, whatever, let people yell at me or something. But I think Kickstarter also, like, it kind of clears the path for the people who should have their books in the Diamond catalog or whatever, because I've noticed, and I've even backed projects that I thought were half cooked, and I've just, you support people. But I think it's like, okay, cool. Like, let you get this out of your system, let you like run around with it and self-promote it, self-release it, and that might just be enough for you. And, you don't have to keep beating your head against the wall, like wondering why so-and-so hasn't like written you back about like your submission. I don't know. That's a half thought.
Well, I mean, it allows them to kind of get that, like you're saying, like kind of get that story out of their system so they can like move forward with their career or something like that. And beyond that, I just think Kickstarter is really cool because, like, you look at somebody like Ryan Brown, and like Ryan Brown is like a machine of making comics. Like, that guy is crazy. And like, I think I've like both like backed and like had like I think 2 or 3 different Kickstarters fulfilled from him in like the last like 24 months or something like that. I don't even know how he's doing it, but it is cool because it gives people an avenue to release their books in a way that they might not have had before. It's not, I mean, I guess it is self-publishing, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, crowd-funded self-publishing, which makes it even cooler.
Well, it's, and some people look at it as, oh, I'm just pre-selling the book. Like
Right,
I'm just getting the printing fee handled by the Kickstarter essentially. And that's cool. Like it's great. There's just there's more than one avenue now. And while Diamond is still kind of this massive entity that, at times creates problems for a lot of people, people can now find a way around Diamond.
Right.
If Diamond is the problem, there's a solution. And that was really, like, I remember talking about like the not so golden days of comic books, like 10 years ago even. I just remembered like working at the comic store and hearing my boss's opinion about the other distributors and how like, like the other ones just couldn't even offer anything to the shops. And so they really were inclined to just stick with Diamond. Yeah. It's a great time. The internet's helping, but it's also, there's a lot of trolling going on, but whatever, I'll figure that out. I'll work my way around. I don't know.
I think it's a great time for a creator like you, because like there's both a place for you to release your books, but there's also a great way to find an audience, because like the internet is a great way to find it. And I'm looking forward to everyone getting to check out the Self-Obsessed web series. I'm excited to check it out myself. I think it's gonna be really great, and that's the true.
And that's the true.
Thank you so much for coming on, Sina. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh my gosh, no, my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Off Panel from Sketch.com. You can find this week's guest, Sina Grace, on Twitter at Sina Grace, on Tumblr at sinagrace.tumblr.com, on the web at sinagrace.com, and in his new web series, Self-Obsessed, on YouTube. You can find more sketch content at Sketched. That's SKTCHD.com. Follow us on Twitter at SketchComic. Like us on Facebook at /Sketched. And if you listen on iTunes, give us a rating or review. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode.